Hello guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to another video and welcome to RuneScape Quarantine Podcast at number 3. And this week's topic is going to be updates in the game. So we'll be talking updates from when I started playing RuneScape, so back in 2006 and 2007. And then following all the way through until, well, pretty much now, 2020 old school RuneScape. And I'll also talk about some of the updates, so from 2007 to 2012, and then 2013 to 2020 in terms of old school. So I'm going to start with ones that I liked in old RuneScape or RuneScape 3. I'm going to sort of go through them like that, so I'll do the ones I liked in RuneScape and the ones I hated, and then followed by the ones in old school that I liked and the ones I perhaps didn't like as much. So yes, straight into it then. One of the first updates that I experienced was the Grand Exchange. Well, yes, one of the most important updates probably in the game's history, I'd say. I have actually done a podcast on this one already, so you've heard my views in it. I like it, but I think perhaps in old school it perhaps wasn't needed, but in the main game it was an excellent update and improved everything quite a lot. What else in 2007? Bounty Hunter. A similar game mode to what's in old school, or what was in old school. That came to RuneScape along with the Wilderness update. We'll get into that a bit later. 2008, player versus player. Excellent update. Really enjoyed PvP worlds. Something different other than the Wilderness 2. Minigames. This is an interesting one. Some of these are quite controversial. I think like Fist of Guthix was 08, Steel and Creation was 08, and Soul Wars was 09. I actually liked all three of those games, but I think some people saw them as just too much, to be honest, but I actually did enjoy them. This is an interesting one for me. The Circus, Bethalza, Beauregard's Big Top Bonanza, 2008. I really used to enjoy that back in the day, like just going somewhere and then you get the ticket and you do all that stuff and you get the XP, and I don't know why. Staying with minigames, Fish Flingers, 2010. Fish Flingers, I'd love that to come to old school, because it wasn't too sort of overpowered either. The XP rates weren't amazing, but in general the game was just like really fun and like quite cool to do in teams. Yeah, that was 2010. Bot Nuke Day, perhaps I wouldn't consider this as much of an update, but yeah, that whole day where Jagex banned, I think it was like over 1.5 million accounts for botting, which was pretty incredible. 2012 was Lodestones, obviously this was kind of EOC sort of time, 2012. Lodestones was an interesting one. I kind of liked the idea of them in terms of the quality of life, but I'd probably say they weren't a great idea because they just devalued teleports completely, but as a quality of life thing, they were pretty good. So that's a few of the updates that I enjoyed in old RuneScape. I'm not going to name all of them as I don't want this to be too long. On the other hand, updates I did not enjoy so much, pretty obvious I think. The Wilderness, big update, removing combat, 2007, and then barely, I think, 30 days later, the trade restrictions and free trade was removed. I mean, I've seen a few sort of comments about updates over the years, and I'll get to that towards the end of the video, but the fact they put these two updates so close together, I think was what really changed the game a lot. Like, you know, if they'd given the new Wilderness a bit of time, and maybe, you know, it might have worked a bit better, but then to remove free trade as well, barely like a month later, that was a ridiculous thing coming from Jagex. The HD beta released, that was 2008. I never wanted to see RuneScape go HD. I thought that sort of ruined the point of it, really, or not the point of it in that respect, but I don't feel like it was a game where the quality of what you can see on your screen is that important. It's more what you're doing, really. Like, the quality is never going to be amazing, and if anything, we don't want it to be too much like real life. Next up, a lot from 2010. Hit points changed to Constitution. What were they thinking here? I can't see how they ever thought that was going to be successful. And then probably the killer for me was combat splats. I think combat splats timesing by 10 also in 2010. So if you hit 21, it would be 210, and that was just brainless and didn't add anything to the game at all. I think that drove quite a lot of people away. Skills, dungeoneering, that was added. I didn't really dislike it. I never tried it too much, but again, I saw it as something that wasn't really needed. Although, with a lot of people going away, perhaps they were thinking that, you know, it is time to bring out something new that's a bit more concrete, like a skill. So I can see the thinking behind it, but I never really got into dungeoneering. EOC was 2012. I'll get to that in just a second. Bonfires for fire making. Christ, this was awful. It just devalued fire making completely. The whole point of it is you, well, certainly in old school days, you just use your tin box on your logs for lines of fires and go forever and ever and ever. The XP rates are still quite good anyway, but then bonfires literally just makes it, it doesn't make it any different from cooking, other than the fact you lose the logs in the fire, so you probably do lose a bit more money. But I can't see why they ever thought bonfires was going to help a skill that's already kind of too easy, to be honest. The Squill of Fortune, that was 2012. That was, again, just, pointless. It's kind of cool. I guess you log in, you get one spin, you might get 200 mil, but it probably won't happen. But again, there's not really any need to help people anymore. And then, yeah, of course, EOC was probably what killed it for myself and quite a lot of people. I didn't enjoy EOC. I never gave it a real good chance, to be honest, but it didn't sort of take long for me to realise that I wasn't going to continue. And I guess other things were happening in my life at that point too, but 2012 for me was the year that I unofficially quit RuneScape. But luckily, barely a year later, old school RuneScape comes out, and quite a few updates to talk about in that. So 2013, Rooftop Agility, fantastic idea. I think it was Big Red Japan as the NPC that you see on all the rooftops. Brilliant way to spice up the skill. Doesn't really change the XP rates too much. Graceful outfit came with it, fantastic idea. Similarly, we've got the Motherlode mine 2014. Can't remember who came up with that one, but yeah, great update, and it's had a few updates since then. And it's a different way to train mining, again without the XP being too better or worse. That's the key with a lot of updates. It's changing something that might work or might not work, but then ensuring that you don't compromise whatever it was in the first place too much. So changing the skills slightly, but not making it sort of a lot easier and not making it a lot harder. And Rooftop Agility and the Motherlode mine conquered that fantastically. Iron Man mode 2014, great idea, great release, and hopefully something I'm going to try in a few weeks or even months to come. But yeah, great credit to Jagex on that one. Resizable mode 2015. I wasn't sure if this would be possible and if it would end up too much like RuneScape 3, but they got it absolutely spot on. The quality's always stayed good, FPS didn't change too much, and it suits everyone, because if you want to play with the normal setup then you can, and if you've got 3 fancy monsters you can play like that instead. So yeah, fantastic update, that one. Achievement diaries, for both games to be fair, achievement diaries, very good. Particularly for old school, just again something to do, something to work for. It gives you goals. That's the main thing. You need levels, you need quests. You have something that you can work for with achievement diaries, and then yeah, some decent rewards from them too. Dead Man mode 2015. Didn't play too much of it, but my goodness, it was good to watch in 2015 when it first came out. There were flaws with it, obviously. That Jagex tried to fix and still are trying to fix. To be honest, I think there's more Dead Man mode coming soon. But it was fantastic to watch on Twitch and YouTube, some great stuff out there. Other quests, along with Monkey Madness 2 2016. I haven't enjoyed many quests quite as much as that one before. We've had Dragon Slayer 2, we've had Making Friends with My Arm, all the Zaya quests, the Fremenic Exiles, and then Song of the Elves, really, really long. The final chapter of the King Lathas quest series, that's long, you've got 8 quests there, I think, something like that. Placeholders, banknotes, make all option 2016. Just simple quality of life, that is what we wanted. Not too overpowered, just makes the game that little bit easier and less tedious. Mining Guild 2017, like the additions they've made there, bringing in the new ore, bringing in some more rune ores to the game, and needed a bit of spice up, and they got it right. Shift Click Drop 2017, again, stopped the debate over mouse keys and just solved that issue in the simplest possible way. Not too many more updates to talk about after that game, because I didn't play as much over 2019 and this year, so haven't tried as many of the new updates, but all of them look good, to be fair. Raids, all the new bosses, and stuff like that. So yeah, kudos to the Jagex team on Old School. I think they've done an amazing job with the game. Just to talk about a few that perhaps I didn't like as much. Obviously I've mentioned the Grand Exchange before. The trading post, they had a go with that, didn't they? But I don't think it really worked, which was why they then polled the Grand Exchange. Zora, well, when it first came out, Zora, people made a lot of money, didn't they? And I think Zora itself is actually quite a good boss and a good creation. It's just they got the drops a bit wrong, and it's almost a bit too profitable, but then again, you can't sort of argue too much with that, I guess. Zaya, when it first came out, Zaya was a very complex kind of topic for Jagex to tackle, and when it first came out it was a bit all over the place, but this was to be expected, and I think they've done a pretty good job with Zaya since, added more content, and slowly over time, that's the main thing. They didn't sort of, you know, panic too much when the reception wasn't great when it first came out, but they've then added things to it since, and it's become lots of stuff to do there. You can do skilling, do bossing, Slayer, all sorts of stuff, and plenty more content to explore. So yeah, mainly positive about Old School, really. Haven't got many bad words to say about any of the updates that they've done at all. Of course, we do poll all of these updates, so that's probably why I'm more pleased. If I've voted in the poll, and I probably voted for the majority of these updates, whereas I guess in RuneScape the updates were not voted for. Most of them weren't voted for by us anyway. And just to sort of cap this one off, I did see a sort of comment on, I think it was Reddit. A few people complained about Old School being, you know, now it's starting to go on that perhaps slippery path towards what happened to RuneScape in sort of 08, 09, 010. You know, is it getting too many updates? But I mean, the guy said, you know, you're not a kid anymore, and that kind of, I don't know, that hit me a little bit. Like, you are not a kid anymore. Well, I'm not, I'm 20. But I guess what happens is you don't enjoy, you know, if they changed Old School back to how it was in 06 and 07, it would die, because people probably wouldn't enjoy all the grinding, all the things you have to do, all the little quality of life updates that are not there, and you know, they just wouldn't enjoy it as much, because you know, you're a bit older, you've seen that before, and you know, the game has to change, otherwise you know, it does get boring, and that is true. And that's, I think that is why they made changes in main RuneScape. Obviously the game was really successful at the time. Player counts were huge in sort of 06, 07, 08. There is a saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but perhaps they sensed that it was going to die out if they didn't make changes. But what I said earlier, it was just awful how they changed the wilderness and free trade all within like a month of each other. Like, some players probably hated the wilderness update, but then to make matters worse, to, you know, remove free trade barely a month later, I don't see how they expected that one to go well. And then after that, it's sort of, you know, there were good updates, as I said, released along sort of 08, 09, 010 that I enjoyed. Like I mentioned, the mini-games I liked, just the circus, and then just some cool game modes in general. New quests as well, Got the Sleeps, that was one of the master quests. But they just did a bit too much too soon, and too much changed in 07 and 08. And for some people, you know, that was good though. I mean, I'm trying to keep balance here. Some people probably liked those updates and might even still play the game now, but they were so controversial and quite radical to do, so you know, some people hated it and probably quit the game and haven't logged in since. Whereas, yeah, I mean, I appreciate you've got to update games, otherwise they will get boring. But to make, you know, to do too much too quickly is what I'm saying there. But yeah, I mean, fantastic job, I'll say again, done by the Old School team. I think the update's been superb, and you know, I'm confident that the game is in safe hands. And I mean, as for how long can RuneScape keep going for, it is now, I think, if we count the years before, is it 21, 22 years old? Obviously, it's only kind of been maybe 16 or 17 of those years have actually been really popular, but it's been very consistent. And yeah, I mean, Old School itself was probably the best update that's happened to the game, bringing 2 versions, and it's great to see in these quarantine times the player counts surging. You know, the game's bringing a lot of joy back into my life already, like doing Dragon Slayer 2 last night. You know, my heart was pacing when I was killing Galbeck. Like, I'm not, I'm 20 and I'm still absolutely loving it. So yeah, thanks to Old School for keeping me busy during this time, and thanks very much to you as well for all your feedback on the videos, likes, comments, anything, and or just simply listening or watching, as I do enjoy making these, and I like to bring a bit of enjoyment into people's lives, especially in these dark times. So yeah, thank you very much for listening or watching to this one. So yes, hope the graphics have been helpful. I thought I'd just add a few, as it's not too much to do, and if you do want to watch the video and follow it a bit more closely, then you can use them. Yeah, the next one will be out the usual time next Sunday. Again, I'm yet to decide on the topic, but I've got a list, so I'll choose one, do some research, and then present, I should say. So thank you very much. Hope you're staying safe and well. Wash those hands, stay home, and I'll see you next time.